Hi, I'm Joan Newcomb, and today's Mystic Minute is about energy boundaries. I have someone who says often that they have no boundaries, as if that's a good thing. Now, I can understand that from a purely conscious perspective, that there are no boundaries, and so you can effortlessly flow from one experience into the next. And that's all fine and lovely when you're totally operating on like a 5D level. But if you hadn't noticed, you're viewing this YouTube through eyeballs, and you're sitting, whatever you're sitting or standing or walking, however you're viewing this, you're viewing it through a physical body onto a physical device. Therefore, there is an aspect of you that is navigating through time and space. Granted that there's this acceleration in consciousness, and we are all experiencing heightened sensitivity and a feeling of merging of energies, so you can energetically tune into the world around you. You may feel empathically the feeling of crowds or of places, the restaurant you're in, the office you're in. You might be much more sensitive to those vibrations. And there is still, within this physical time and space, boundaries. There's body boundaries and there's energy boundaries. We've become more and more aware of that. You know, you feel uncomfortable if someone is standing too close to you. Well, the thing is that you can also feel uncomfortable when someone else's energy boundaries are oozing outwards. And there are people who are less aware. I would say much of the world is less aware of their energetic space. So those of us that are become more consciously attuned can take that into consideration. It's like, okay, I'm in a world full of kindergartners and they just don't get it. And it is useful to be aware of your own space and boundaries while all this is going on in the world. It's not useful to be rigid about it, like, that person is invading my space, I have a boundary. Because if you just notice, that kind of stuff is the energy of resistance. And resistance will magnetically attract the thing you resist. Oh, you want to talk to that person? Hello, you're right here. So, how to have a sense of your own energetic space around people who have no sense of energetic space is a big question, is a great inquiry to have. How useful is it to say something to people who don't know how to control their energy? Or is it more useful just to have your own energetic sense of space? My original training used a technique called a protection rose, and the word protection was kind of a misnomer because it's not protecting like a shield, which is resistance, but more like protecting like a raincoat or I would say a float in a pool that defines the deep end from the shallow end. And this float of a rose defines the edge of your space. And even as I'm doing that right now, it doesn't entirely make sense with this greater consciousness shift where you are aware on a multitude of levels all at once. It doesn't quite make sense, and yet it is useful when you're operating in time and space to have a little definition. Otherwise, you know, people would be walking into each other all the time if they didn't have a physical space and then some kind of definition of like This is my parking space. Please, your tires don't go over the white line. So the whole space thing used to drive me crazy when I was a lot more rigid about it and had stronger expectations. And then I started realizing the world is full of kindergartners, and then often I might be picking up on how that person is feeling rather than they're invading my space to make me feel bad. Oh, I'm feeling bad because they're feeling bad, and their space is all over the place because they're feeling bad. They could be stressed about something. They could be having something traumatic going on. I had this happen in a group once where someone came in who was a friend of mine, and she sat down next to me, and I immediately started feeling like shit. And we kind of going around the room and sharing, and I was about to just turn to her and go, "What is wrong with you? Why are you mad at me?" or something like that. And by the time the sharing went around the room and got to her, she said that that day was the anniversary of her mother's death. She was grieving. Her energy was all over the place. It had nothing to do with me. I just happened to be sensitive, and I happened to be sitting next to her. So we can be more kind with people in the world who have their energy frequency turned on loud because of trauma, emergency, anything like that. People will have their frequency turned on loud if they're experiencing pain. They'll be more unconscious if they're in pain or discomfort. Most of the world is in pain or discomfort. You will be in pain or discomfort if your own frequency is open to the rest of the world. So here's a technique that you can use besides having a rose. But another thing that you can use that is very useful is to think of like a hearing aid dial. Old people, they're turning down their hearing aids, they're turning up their hearing aids. Well, this is your sensing aid, and you can turn up or down the dial. Oh, that feels wonderful. I wish I'd remembered to do this earlier. And it doesn't desensitize you, but those of us who are empaths, it doesn't take away that gift that has been useful for you in the past, but it helps you manage that gift out in the world today. Might make it a little easier for you to go about in the world. If you like these videos, you can subscribe to them on YouTube. If you'd like to know more, my website is joan-newcomb.com. I have a weekly radio show and podcast. I do a weekly blog and newsletter. I do meetups around the Puget Sound in Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, and University Place. I also do monthly webinars, and I coach people from all around the world through Zoom and Skype and by phone. So if you want to learn more about how to navigate life as consciousness, have some useful techniques for moving about in this world with greater confidence and ownership and fun and amusement, then go to my website, joan-newcomb.com, and look at my coaching programs. So go to joan-newcomb.com, and I'll see you in another couple days with another Mystic Minute.